Hi, and welcome to Crafts with Ash. My name's Ashley, and today I'm going to bring you something that I've actually never done before. I'm going to bring you some thrift flips for this Friday, and they are going to be kind of farmhouse themed, but I just saw everyone doing some thrift flips and it inspired me to do my own. So I went to my local Salvation Army and scavenged through all of their really neat items, and I picked 4 that I thought I would make over. So I'm going to bring them to you today. But first, if you don't mind subscribing to my YouTube channel and then hit that little notification bell so you can get notified anytime I upload a new video. Then if you like what you see today, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. It really helps my channel to grow. Then hop on over to Facebook and Instagram and follow me there and join my crafting community. All right, let's get started for Thrift Flip Friday. So the first item I will be using today actually did not come from a thrift store. It actually came from Marshall's, and it was in the clearance section for $2 for obvious reasons. It was completely broken in half. But when I saw it, I was thinking nothing a little wood glue and hot glue can't fix. So that's exactly what I did. I just put the combination of wood glue and hot glue down in the middle and then just pushed it together and let it set for about an hour. Now I did make sure that the glue was completely wiped off, so I wiped off the middle and then I flipped it over and kind of picked off any of the hot glue that was drying, so that way it was a nice clean surface. But when I came back to it, you never would have known that this was broken in half. Now, while I set that aside to dry, I took this plunger and I took off the bottom part, like the actual plunger part, and then I used my hair dryer to get off the sticker. For some reason, they just love to plaster these stickers right on to these plungers. Don't they know by now that we actually use these to craft and not actually to plunge the toilet? You'd think that they would catch on and not put that right on there so tightly, but eventually it did come off. Next, I took my ruler and I measured 4-inch pieces. Now, I did not include that little piece at the end where the plunger part was, so I started at the bottom of that and then measured 4-inch pieces. And then I went ahead and cut them down, so I was left with 4 4-inch rods. After all my pieces were cut, I took my sanding block and I made sure to sand every single end of each of the rods. Now, you're going to see that one of them is actually a lot shorter than the other 3, and that's because I did not take into account the curved end of the other end of the plunger. So I had to cut that off, and then that made that specific rod a little shorter. But I'm going to show you how I fix that in just a little bit. So you can see there the one that is obviously shorter, and I had 2 options here. Either I could measure all of them down and cut them down to match that shorter one, or I could build the shorter one up, and ultimately that's what I decided to do. So I grabbed my cutting board and I laid each of my little legs out in the 4 corners. Now, to build up the one that was shorter, I just cut up pieces of a craft stick and then just started building them up. And then I kept taking one of the longer ones and comparing it as I was building it. Now, I used 4 pieces of a craft stick to build it up. It still was not perfect, but a 5th piece would have been too tall and a 3rd and only 3 pieces would have been too short. So I just decided to go with 4 pieces. It's a little off, but you can't really tell. Once I had all of my pieces cut, I went ahead and hot glued down my craft sticks. Now, I should not have done this until I actually measured out where the positioning needed to be, which you'll see me do in just a second. But I just kind of went with it and it ended up turning out fine. But if you just want to wait until you measure it all out, or you could just cut it right the first time and then you wouldn't have to do any of that. But at least that's what I'm here for, to show you mistakes and how to fix them. So next I took my ruler and I measured 1 inch from the end in, and that's where I put my rod, and then I measured 1 inch from the side up. so into the middle of the board, if that makes sense. So 1 by 1, and that's where each of the little dowel rods should be. Then by using my wood glue and my hot glue for that permanent hold and that instant hold, I went ahead and hot glued them down. Now before I moved each one of them, I actually took my pencil and I traced around where that needed to be, so that way when I lifted it up, I knew exactly where to put it so it was back on where it needed to go. And then I just went ahead and glued them all down. Now I did apply a lot of pressure, that way they stuck to the bottom of my cutting board. Then after I had them glued down, I did take my hot glue and I ran a bead of hot glue around each of the dowel rods, so that way it added just a little extra support. Now I did let the legs set for about 45 minutes because I did not want to move them until they were completely adhered onto my board. After that, I grabbed it and I took some antique Waverly wax and I used a baby wipe to stain each of the legs because I wanted to find something that would match the original color of the cutting board. And I gotta say, this came pretty darn close. So I just stained each one of my legs. After those legs were dry, I flipped the cutting board over, and I am going to paint this, but it had that shiny sheen to it because it is a cutting board. So I sanded the top of it down because I thought maybe that the paint would adhere better to the board if I sanded it, and it definitely did help. Next, I took my ivory Waverly chalk paint and a chippy brush, and I just dry brushed right over the top of my cutting board. Then I also hit the sides of the cutting board and of course the legs, and I love the look this gave. Would you look at all that texture? I love this. Now, my inspiration for this was something I believe was at Hobby Lobby or Pottery Barn or Kirkland, something like that. One of those places where they had a tray or a stand made out of a cutting board. So I was actually on the hunt for a while at thrift stores looking for a cutting board, and that's why when I saw this one for $2 at Marshall's, I grabbed it because I knew exactly what I was going to do with it. And I'm so glad I did because it came out exactly how I wanted it. After I was done painting, I let it dry and then just sanded it down to make it all help blend in, and then it left me with a really neat farmhouse stand. You could put it in your kitchen. I saw one of my favorite YouTubers actually put it on her fireplace hearth and put some plants, a lantern. You can decorate this and style this however you want, but I absolutely love how this came out. What do you think? For my my next thrift flip, I found this really nice plaque, and it is heavy. So immediately when I saw it, I thought of one of those bathroom signs that you would hang outside of your bathroom. Now, I went ahead and peeled off the tag, and it was only 99 cents, so how could you beat that? You can't. And then I just took a baby wipe and wiped it all down. Next, I took my Waverly chalk paint and white and gave my plaque a really good coat of that. Now, like I said in the beginning, I have actually never done a video on thrift flips before. In fact, I really don't flip thrifts, things that I find at the thrift store. So I was really inspired, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to try it, and it'll be something new for my channel. And hey, if it catches on and my subscribers and my viewers love it, then I'm going to continue doing it. So like I said at the beginning, if you don't mind giving me a thumbs up on this video, that way I know that it's something that you enjoy and want to see more of. After my plaque had dried, I took these letters, these sticker letters that I got from the Dollar Tree, and I pulled out all of the letters I needed. Now I'm going to spell out the word wash. I started with the A and the S because they split center, but as you can tell, I'm not pushing them down. I'm just kind of placing them on there. Then once I get them all on, I will position them how I need them to make it all even across. Once I had my letters on how I liked, I took my sanding block and just lightly sanded over the letters to make them look a little bit more old and rustic. Now you want to make sure not to rip the letters, but I just went ahead and sanded them down, and I really love the look this gave. Then to protect my letters, I gave the entire front part of this sign a coat of Mod Podge. Once my Mod Podge was dry, I took my black paint marker and I outlined the edges of my sign. I really wanted to go for the enamel look, so like I said, just outlined it, and I have to say, I really love doing this. Now, in some parts, I went a little thicker, or I kind of made a little bump to make it look like a chip, but I just did this until I had the look I was going for, and I loved how this came out. Now, I'm going to go ahead and let this play and let you watch it, because I don't know about you, but I feel like this is kind of satisfying to watch. Once I did the outside edges, I jumped to the middle of it too, and I loved doing this. Now, as you can tell, I started off a little thin going around all the edges because I just wanted to see what it would look like first. And then I got a little braver and started making my lines thicker and making my chips a little bigger and bolder. So I really do think that that added to the look of this. I never really have done this before. I never added the enamel look to anything, but I really do love the look of this. And I actually gave this to my mom so she can hang it in her new bathroom that she just redid over the fall. And even though her bathroom really isn't farmhouse per se, this really did fit in. I mean, it's black and white. You can't, it could go into any kind of look and style and decor. So I really love how this came out. But what do you think? This next DIY was so easy, I kind of feel bad calling it a DIY, but I saw this frame at the thrift store, and would you look at that crackled and rustic and distressed look. It came like that, and I debated and thought about what I wanted to do, and ultimately, I just decided just to put a little plaque on it because I just did not want to take away from the already amazing chipped look that it has. So, of course, the first thing I did was just wipe it down with a baby wipe. It was kind of dusty, so I just wanted to clean it off. Then I just took this little plaque from the Dollar Tree, and by using my hot glue and the permanent glue, the super glue, I just glued this to the middle, and that middle part is raised. It is 3D, so it made this sign raised, and that was it. And then it left me with this really neat farmhouse picture. And again, this would really match any style and decor because even though it is farmhouse, it's just neutral, so it could really fit into anything. Now, I did sand down the edges just to add to that rustic and distressed look, but it really did not need much. I love the way that it came, so it really took a lot of the work out of it. I gave this to my mom to hang in her house, and she absolutely loved it, and it was so simple. But what do you think? For my last DIY, I picked up this picture from the thrift store. Well, I think it's a picture, but my mom thought it was a tray. But when I saw it, I thought about making a tray with it too. So I guess either one of us could be right. But the first thing I did was peel off the sticker in the back, and then I just used a bunch of different tools to actually get the picture out of the frame. So I just used my scraper, I used my wire cutters because there were some staples in there, and then eventually I was able to pop it right off. Next, I wiped down the frame because it was a little dusty, and then by using my white chalk paint, I dry brushed over the frame. Now, at this point, I only gave it one coat because you could see the wood coming through, and I couldn't decide whether I wanted it to be fully covered or if I wanted you to still be able to see the wood. So I just left it at one coat, and then I decided later on to actually give it a second coat, but I just left it like that for now. Then after that dried, I flipped it over and took these jumbo craft sticks that I got from Walmart, and I cut them down so they would fit right on the back of the frame. And then I cut enough down to go all the way behind the frame. Now, before you start gluing, you want to make sure to line these up because crazy things can happen and they can move on you even though that you think that you have it all perfectly measured out. So definitely place them down, and then once you have them in the spots they need to be, then you can go ahead and start gluing them down. Now, to do this, I only used hot glue. I didn't really think it was necessary to use that super glue, so I just took my hot glue and hot glued each one of these down. I only put glue on the top and the bottom. After all my sticks were down, I took that backing again and I placed it in the back to make sure that it was going to fit with those sticks on there, and then I hot glued it on. Now, you're going to see that I actually flipped it over so the image is on the back because I just wanted the white to be on the front just in case you could see through the cracks of the craft sticks like you see there, and you can see a little bit of gaps, so it's a good thing I flipped it over so that image was not showing through. Next, I took that Waverly chalk paint in white and painted all of my craft sticks, and then this is when I decided to go ahead and give the outside of my frame a second coat. Now, I forgot to mention before, when I did paint this, I went ahead and painted the sides of the frame as well. So you do want to make sure to give the outside, the entire frame, 2 coats, and then 1 coat to the insides. Next, I took a small paintbrush and just went into all the little nooks and crannies. Next up, I took these wall decals. Now, this project is going to have some color in it, even though it is farmhouse. But I took these decals and I just took them off and then placed them down without pushing them down. So right now, I'm just trying to figure out all of my positioning. I ended up using 3 of these circles and then the little flowers on the decal as well. So I really wanted this to kind of be summery and bright and colorful, so I just positioned this how I liked it. Now, once I positioned this, you can see that I have some of them folded in half. I went ahead and cut those down, and then I actually pushed them down, so that way it all stuck to my sticks. Now, as you can see, I started putting the flowers on, but then I decided that I actually wanted to make a gap where all of the craft sticks would naturally have a space. So I just took my knife and I just cut through my decals where the spacing is. So first I went through with my knife, and then I took a craft stick, a popsicle stick, and ran through it with that too because it was just a little thicker. After I was done with that, I went back to adding those flowers all around my circles. Next, I took my antique Waverly wax and my favorite distressing brush, and I went ahead and distressed the inside of my tray and the outside. And then I also did the outside edges as well, but I just thought I would add a little rustic touch to my summer tray. Next, I took my sand block and sanded my antique wax down to make it all blend in. Then as I was sanding, I realized that I was sanding really hard and the natural wood was coming through, and I loved how that looked. So I just went for it and I just sanded the tops of my tray and to make sure that natural wood came through. Finally, I decided I was going to give my tray little feet, but to do this, I needed to create a surface for my blocks to be glued to because there is a gap there. So I just cut up a piece of a jumbo craft stick and I hot glued them down to all four corners. After that, I took 4 blocks that you can get in a pack from the Dollar Tree, and I hot glued those down in all 4 corners, and then I painted those white and then distressed them with the Waverly Antique Wax. Then to protect my decals and all of the paint, I gave my whole tray a coat of Mod Podge. I think this came out so cool. It's modern, but it is neutral, but it adds those little touches of color to bring in summer. You can use this outside. You would have to put a coating over it to protect it, but you could use it outside, or you can just put it on your kitchen table or dining room table or your front entrance just to add that pop of color to your home for summer. I cannot wait to display this and make a really cute display on it for summer because I think that this is going to look so cute. But what do you think? Well, I gotta say, I think I really love going to the thrift store and picking out some really unique and different items to flip and to make over and to make my own or give them as gifts. I think that I'm definitely going to do more in the future. It was a lot of fun to step out of my box and just kind of think about different things and different ways to use some items. You're gonna have to let me know in the comments which one was your favorite. Also, do you thrift? Do you do the same thing and flip some items that you find at thrift stores? What is your advice for me if I want to keep on doing this? What are your favorite items to thrift? Do you like wood pieces? Do you like kitchen items? Do you like outdoor items? Tell me. What are all the thrifting secrets? Because this is definitely something that I could see myself doing more of. I loved how all these came out, and I had a lot of fun making over all of these items. Again, I want to thank you so much for joining me today. I hope that you got some great ideas and are inspired to do your own thrift flips or make your own projects and DIYs. If you haven't done so already, please don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel, then hit that little notification bell so you can get notified the next time I upload a video. Also, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you loved what you saw today, because it truly does help my channel to grow. Thank you so much for joining me, and until I see you again, I'll craft with you soon. Bye!